She came charging out of nowhere, waving a piece of paper like it carried the weight of the law itself. "You can't stay here. This cabin belongs to the Hoa now," she shouted, her voice echoing across the still lake. I set my bag down on the porch and looked at her, calm on the outside, fire burning underneath. "This is my land. Bought and paid for," I said slowly, but she didn't hesitate for a second. Instead, she pulled out her phone and barked into it, "Send officers immediately. Arrest him before he breaks in." Only minutes later, a truck rolled up and 4 men in uniform stepped out. For just a heartbeat, doubt crept in. Had she actually pulled strings and gotten real law enforcement involved? They walked toward me with serious faces, but something felt wrong. One avoided eye contact. Another's badge caught the sunlight and looked cheap, almost plastic. Karen smirked, leaning closer and whispering just loud enough for me to hear, "Say goodbye to your little cat." I clenched my fists, ready to stand my ground, because what she didn't realize was I'd seen these faces before, and they weren't real cops. The tallest one stepped forward, puffing his chest like he was in charge. "Sir, you're trespassing. You need to leave immediately," he said, but his voice cracked halfway through. Karen crossed her arms, satisfaction written all over her face. "Take him away. He doesn't belong here," she snapped. I didn't move. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out a small leather folder, opening it slowly. Their expressions shifted the moment they saw it. "My military ID," said evenly. "Before you lay a hand on me, you might want to check who you're dealing with." The fake cop's face drained of color, and for the first time, Karen's smile disappeared. "That doesn't change anything," she yelled, pointing at the cabin. "The Hoa has full authority over this property." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "That's interesting, because this cabin isn't even inside your Hoa's jurisdiction, and I have the deed to prove it." Her jaw tightened. But before she could respond, the youngest of the fake officers whispered urgently to the others, "We should leave." "He's not lying." Karen spun on him, fury flashing in her eyes. "No, stay right here. Do your job." But I had already pulled out my phone and started recording faces, fake badges, her threats. Every second was evidence. Just when I thought she might finally retreat, she did something I didn't expect. Karen lunged forward and ripped the phone from my hand. "No one's going to see this," she hissed, clutching it like a lifeline. The fake cops froze, unsure what to do. I didn't chase her. I just smiled. "Karen, you just made a very big mistake." She blinked, confused, until I lifted my wrist and tapped the small black band strapped to it. "That wasn't my only camera," I said calmly. A faint red light blinked from the porch of the cabin. My security system had captured everything from the moment she stepped onto my land to the second she stole my phone. "You think you're clever?" she snapped, waving my phone in the air. "You don't understand how much power I have here. Everyone listens to me." She turned to the fake officers and shouted, "Arrest him now, or I'll make sure you regret it." This time, they hesitated. One finally spoke, voice low and uneasy. "Ma'am, we didn't sign up for this. He's recording everything." Her eyes darted wildly as panic crept into her voice. "Then take him down. Smash the cameras. Do something." I stepped closer, I'm calm and steady. "You can yell all you want, but every second you stay here, the real sheriff is getting closer." For the first time, fear crossed her face. Then I heard the distant growl of a siren rolling down the dirt road toward the cabin. It grew louder, slicing through the tension like a warning. Karen forced a smile, trying one last bluff. "Good. The real cops are here. Now, you'll finally get dragged off my property." She shoved my phone into her pocket and stood tall, pretending she was still in control. But the fake officers shifted nervously. One muttered, "We need to get out of here." Moments later, the sheriff's truck pulled in, kicking up dust as it stopped. The door opened and Sheriff Daniels stepped out. I knew him well, we'd served together years ago overseas, and the look on his face told me he already sensed something was wrong. "What's going on here?" he demanded, scanning the scene. Karen rushed forward, pointing at me. "Sheriff, arrest this man. He's trespassing and threatening us." But before she could push her story any further, Daniel's eyes locked onto the fake badges. He walked straight past her, grabbed one of the men by the collar, and ripped the badge clean off. The plastic snapped in his hand. Impersonating law enforcement? Daniels growled. That's a felony. Karen's confident mask shattered instantly. Wait, no, they're with me. They're volunteers, she stammered. Daniels turned on her, his stare ice cold. And you handing out fake HOA notices, calling in fake cops. Do you have any idea what you've done? She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. In that silence, I leaned in and whispered the words she would never forget. You wanted me arrested on my own land. Now watch how real justice works. Karen staggered back, her authority cracking like thin glass. This is a misunderstanding, she blurted. I was just enforcing community rules. Daniels raised a hand, cutting her off. Community rules don't give you permission to break the law. He pointed at the fake officers. Drop your gear. Now, one by one, they tossed their radios and plastic badges onto the ground. Their tough act gone. Karen panicked. You can't do this to me. I'm the HOA president. Everyone listens to me. Daniels ignored her and turned to me instead. You okay, brother? He asked quietly. I nodded. Eyes still on Karen, now pacing like a trapped animal. She took my phone, I said calmly. But my cameras caught everything. Daniels gave a slight grin, then looked straight at her. Hand it over. For the first time, Karen's hands shook as she slowly pulled my phone from her pocket. Her voice dropped into a desperate whisper as she tried one last move. If you delete that footage, I can make this disappear. I can even get you a seat on the board. I let out a quiet laugh. You still don't understand, Karen. I don't need your board. I've got something better. Proof. Sheriff Daniels took the phone from her hand and placed it back into mine. Karen's face twisted, raw hatred spilling out where confidence used to be. Before she could lash out again, Daniels produced his cuffs. Karen, you're under arrest for filing false reports, harassment, and assisting in the impersonation of law enforcement. The fake officers tried to slip away, but deputies arriving behind Daniels cut them off. Karen's scream ripped through the trees as the cuffs snapped shut. You'll regret this. All of you will regret this. But for the first time that day, the pressure finally lifted from my chest. I didn't realize yet that she wasn't finished. Karen thrashed against the cuffs, her voice sharp and vicious. You think this is over? My lawyer will bury you. The hole will crush you, she spat, her face flushed with fury. Daniels didn't react. He tightened his grip and guided her toward the patrol truck. But the way her eyes locked onto mine, burning, calculating, sent a chill straight through me. She wasn't bluffing. As deputies loaded the fake officers into another vehicle, one of them suddenly shouted, Karen, don't leave us hanging. You promised we'd get paid. Daniels froze. Slowly, he turned back toward her. Paid for what? He asked, his voice ice cold. Karen clamped her mouth shut. But the damage was done. The deputies exchanged looks as Daniels leaned closer. Looks like you've got a lot more to explain than we thought. I should have felt relief. Instead, unease settled in my gut. Karen didn't give up control easily. As Daniels drove off with her, her words echoed in my head. You'll regret this. I turned back toward my cabin, ready to finally breathe until I noticed something wrong. The lock on my door was shattered. The wood around the frame splintered like it had been forced. My heart sank. I pushed the door open slowly. The floor creaked beneath my boots. The air inside felt heavy, wrong, like someone had been there moments earlier. Then a shadow shifted in the corner of the living room. A calm, chilling voice spoke. Took you long enough to come back. My pulse thundered as I stepped inside. Porch light barely cutting through the darkness. The figure leaned forward, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't a stranger. It was a man I hadn't seen in years, someone I never expected to find waiting in my home. He smirked. Karen wasn't lying. You were always going to regret this. She works for me now. I clenched my jaw. You broke into my cabin, said coldly. That was your first mistake. He chuckled. No, my first move was smarter than that. I had her distract you while I went through your things. My eyes snapped to the table. My documents. The deed. Old military files spread out, studied. Before I could move, he lifted a small flash drive. its surface glinting under the dim light. "All your records. Copied. If you thought Karen was dangerous, wait until you see what I can do with this." Anger surged, but I forced myself calm. "You don't know who you're dealing with." He leaned back in my chair like he owned it. "Oh, I know exactly who you are. That's why I'm here." The whole wanted control. "I want leverage." The cabin creaked in the silence. Then I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You shouldn't have said that out loud." His grin faltered just slightly. He hadn't noticed the faint red light blinking in the corner. Another camera, recording everything. When he finally saw it, panic flashed across his face. He jumped up, pointing the flash drive at me like a weapon. "Turn that camera off. Now." His voice carried fear, not authority. I didn't move. I folded my arms and let the silence work. "You really thought you could break into my cabin, steal my files, and walk away clean?" I said evenly. "That camera isn't just recording. It's streaming. Smash it if you want. Everything you said is already saved." His jaw tightened. He glanced toward the door, then headlights sliced through the windows. Tires crunched on gravel. Sheriff Daniels' voice boomed from the porch. "You want to explain why I see a stranger inside your house?" The man cursed, shoving the flash drive into his pocket. I stepped in front of him. "Going somewhere?" Daniels pushed the door open, hand on his holster. "Looks like Karen wasn't working alone," he said. "And I'd bet whatever's in your pocket isn't yours." The man froze as the weight of reality hit him. Slowly, he pulled the flash drive out and dropped it on the table. His shoulders slumped. Daniels cuffed him without hesitation. "Breaking and entering. Theft of records. Conspiracy tied to HOA fraud. Congratulations. You just earned yourself a long stay behind bars." Outside, the night felt lighter. Karen's screams echoed faintly from the patrol truck down the road. The fake officers sat in silence, their scheme exposed. I stood on my porch, watching the lights disappear. This cabin, this land was more than property. It was freedom. Something I earned. Something no bully or con man could steal. Daniels gave me a nod before driving off. And as the road went quiet again, I finally released a breath I didn't know I was holding. The lake shimmered under the moonlight, untouched. Mine. I closed the door behind me and spoke softly, letting the night hear it. "I didn't fight for this country just to be told I can't live on my own land. Not then, not now, not ever." And this time, the fight was truly over.